How are people supposed to promote their content? You have to get creative. I mean, without having, in the absence of having a kind of multiple thousand, sometimes million promotional budget from a studio, what have you guys done from a creative standpoint to kind of get your content seen and noticed?
Ooh, you know, that's the hardest question is, how do I make this go viral, right? Because there is no recipe to that.
Right.
There's just none. A little kid saying, "I love turtle," goes viral. Why? I don't know, but it's hilarious. You know, the thing that makes it, if you put a cat and some food together, I'm pretty sure it'll go viral. But I don't know, you know, we both had I mean, how would you say the promotional?
Well, you know what, before you get to John, because I know specifically, you worked it. I mean, your first short, you know,
Yeah.
You called favors. You literally did. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but you had all your friends look at it, kind of put it up on their Facebook, share the link. I mean, wasn't it kind of working the social media?
Yeah, I really tried to work the hell out of Twitter, right? So and I wasn't a Twitter guy, right? Nobody really cares what I'm doing all day long, right? So I didn't have a lot of fans or like people who were following me. So I just harassed a bunch of people who did. Right? I was like, please, but they, you know, the content has to be good. So they had to watch it first. I pulled in favors, like the RZA I knew from like a mutual friend, and I knew he loved martial arts, right? So he watched it, he supported it. My sister happens to know Neil Patrick Harris, so I was like, watch it. He saw it, he promoted it. You know, like Felicia Day helped me out. So when you start to put those people and help cross-promote, I think that's a great thing. You were telling me this story about, what's her name?
Today?
No, the girl who makes food for nummies, or
Rosanna Panzino.
Yeah, right. Like they all cross promote each other.
Yeah. Well, I was just gonna say, I agree that you can't. There's no real recipe for the virus, right? Viral, if you call it. But I do think that there is a way to make things go viral, and if you think about just that word, virus, right? It's like a disease. And diseases spread where? In dense communities, right? Like that's how like actual, you know, real diseases are passed. And it's exactly the same online. The reason why these videos, a lot of these videos go viral is they usually start in a community. A group of really close friends start sharing it. And if a community is made up of a lot of people, that virus starts getting passed around and around until it gets out of the community and starts spreading to other communities. So a big thing about Mortal Kombat is it already has, to a degree, it has a community, right? Like, you know, people know about Mortal Kombat. So that started spreading to Mortal Kombat fans. And then, of course, you leveraged these different people who also have communities, right? Like Felicia Day's community, she tweets that out. Suddenly that virus starts spreading within her thing. So the key is not the content necessarily. It's not the virus necessarily. It's the community. It's building these big, strong, powerful communities, and that's sort of what you're talking about with Rosanna Panzino, and this idea that, you know, these YouTube creators, and it's something that you're seeing on YouTube. It's very distinctive to the time that we live in, the day and age that we live in, where you can have somebody just average, just person who, didn't get into YouTube because they necessarily wanted to be an actor or a star. They just started to, talk to people. And little by little, those people started talking back. And then they brought a couple of friends to come talk. And little by little, a subscriber base started to build. And then they have this big, big community. And in that community, they can spread these viruses.
Great. Yeah, and I would just add that, for those of you who have produced content that, you posted up there and you're just waiting for it to catch on, that's probably not the right approach. As these guys are saying, it's really not a time to be shy if you're expecting people to or want people to see your work, especially in this universe. I mean, you really need to kind of reach out to other folks, share it with them, encourage them to share it with their friends and family and everybody else that they know. And what you guys are talking about is really, really important. The idea of creating a community or dropping into a community that already exists and trying to befriend people and share your content is a really great, I think, an important thing to try. Can you guys just leave a little bit of advice to some of those folks, some of the folks out there who are maybe either looking to produce something for the web, or I just talked about a little bit, but if they already have some content, they don't really know what to do with it. If they want to get started, any kind of words of wisdom that you guys can share with them?
Oh, well, on writing, you said something very good at the last panel about writing,
Well, I mean, this is something that somebody told me once that I've always really cherished, and it just specifically it deals with writing and being a writer. That particular role, and I guess it's not just writer, creator, whatever. That role is the only role in the entertainment industry that doesn't require somebody to let you do it. If you want to direct, you need a script. You want to act, you need a script, right? Like every aspect of making a movie requires a writer to have opened up a laptop and started typing. And nobody can tell you whether you can do that or not. You have the laptop, you can start writing. So if you have something inside of yourself, open the laptop, start writing. That's the first step, because you have a power that no other person in this industry has.
That's great.
For me, just growing up a big kind of tech kid, I've always relied on myself to do a lot of the work, because you'll find yourself, like I met a person who had an idea for a show, right? She's like, so how do I come up and I have an idea for this show, I think it's really good. I was like, well, you should write a treatment, right? You should put together a treatment. And I knew nothing was gonna happen, because the first thing she said to me was, well, I'm not a writer, I don't know how to write a treatment, right? Okay, so you just gotta do it. And when I was kind of learning how to do, direct and edit and stuff, I didn't have a teacher, I had to buy tutorials, I had to read books and learn how to do it, learn After Effects by myself. And more than ever now, there's no excuse, because you just type in how to anything on YouTube and there is a tutorial. If you want to learn how to do visual effects, go to videocopilot.net and I'm sure there's a tutorial on there, right? Even some free stuff. And I'm gonna say this because growing up, I didn't pay for all of these things. I stole them. So find some great torrent sites, Adobe Photoshop and Premiere is free if you really search for it. I personally can't go to adobe.com because there's some sort of macro in my computer that doesn't allow my computer to go to adobe.com because I stole Photoshop and After Effects. So I think the key is to steal and infect communities as much as possible.
That's great. Yeah. I'm sure.
I pay for everything now.
Right, of course. The rebellious nature of filmmakers.
Yeah.
Guys, I'd love to open up to the floor here and give everybody an opportunity. I mean, these guys are very approachable. I've known them for a while, and don't be afraid to ask even what you may think is a dumb question. I'm sure they won't take it that way, although they may. No. I don't know whether we have a microphone down there, or do people just raise their hands, or...
And, you said the risky nature of filmmakers. I tend to like to do that kind of stuff, right? I like the spirit of doing that. I think, I wasn't the first one to take an IP and do it. I think but that line is being blurred a lot. I noticed it a lot more after Mortal Kombat Rebirth came out, that people were taking like titles that they really love and essentially making a very highly stylized fan film, right? Yeah. So like Portal made one, and then a guy named Dan Trachtenberg did a short film for Portal that ended up going viral. And then now he's hired by New Line to do Y: The Last Man, right? So content online is being recognized to these bigger studios and these newer execs who are learning that the new wave of filmmakers are coming from this generation of YouTubers.
Yeah, and I point to Kevin a lot as an example of somebody who, it's not like he was born into the studio system, who had a kind of deep kind of relationships from family members or, agents and all that stuff. He put himself out there. He recruited some friends, and he had a passion to make this video, and they found him. And he was incredibly talented and visual and unique and original in terms of what his vision for this thing, and they found him. So it's not an easy thing by any means. I don't think any of us are up here saying, just kind of take a shot at it and the studio will find you. But if you are good and original and you put yourself out there, they very well will find you.
I mean, you hear these stories all the time, like, Brett Ratner, right? He wrote a letter to Spielberg and snuck onto the Universal lot every day. And now he's like, owns half of Hollywood, right? But like, the more you put yourself out there, I mean, there's this EDM group that I love named Cruella, right? They're really, really freaking cool. I went to one of their shows. I just cold emailed the manager to do one of their music videos, like, just out of nowhere. Same thing with Michael Jai White in Mortal Kombat. I got his number from a mutual friend of ours, and he had no idea who I was when I called him, but he ended up coming to do the short because he heard how passionate I was about doing it. And the same thing went with Cruella. I've now done 2 videos for them because we all got along, and the manager actually, because I emailed him, also happened to tell me that they all watched Mortal Kombat on the tour bus. So, because I put, you just gotta do it.
You gotta put yourself out there. Yeah.
Passion really goes a long way. There's a lot of currency in that. Warner Brothers didn't come to me. I came to Warner Brothers, but there was a similar spirit of, I have something awesome here, and I want to show this to them. As I said, I was kind of conceiving it, didn't know what it was. At the time, I didn't have an agent for writing and producing, and I was listening to the radio, and one day on NPR I heard this story about UTA, and they were starting this, or they were starting to look for digital creators, but they were specifically not interested in the flash in the pan creators who were just like, doing something like the Numa Numa guy, They wanted real creators who were, that were looking to build something. And I said to my manager at the time, and I'd say, like, anybody who asks, like, what should I have? Should I have an agent, a manager? I always say, like, get a manager. It's the best thing to have. Their job is to, like, go out and talk you up to people. And I talked to my manager and I said, I want a meeting with UTA. I want to share this project with them. I'm convinced they're going to love it. So he did. He called them up. He's like, you gotta meet with my client. He's got a really great, obviously UTA is not the buyer, but they have connections to buyers. I sat down, I pitched them the world of H+, all that stuff. They said, we've got studios that are starting to get interested in this kind of thing. One of them is Warner Brothers. We're gonna set up a meeting with you and the digital division at Warner Brothers. And so I went in and I did the same thing. I just told them, you have to have this. This is great. This is groundbreaking. They took it, and I'll say, to the whole thing about creating content on the internet. Like Warner Brothers sort of knocked on your door, Kevin, because they were skeptical at first, whether or not you were hurting their brand, because that's the real fear when somebody does a studio property, without authorization. The fear of the studio has always been, is this going to hurt the Wonder Woman brand, the Batman brand? And the reason why is because up until very recently, just some average Joe creating a video that they edited in their bedroom typically looked pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And studios sort of assumed that was the case. So Kevin comes along, he does this thing that immediately they're like, oh, we need to sue, wait, what? This is amazing. And little by little, Warner Brothers has started to realize, wait a second, there's a lot of amazing stuff out there. There's a lot of people with talent out there. And that was the thing, is that studios always assumed that the only place that they could get good content were from agents like UTA. Like, that's the only place that they would look, would be if an agent at UTA called them up and said, you got to meet with my client. Now, they're being so much more lax with what people can unofficially do online, these fan films, because they're watching, they're looking online, they're seeing, wait a second.
I think a model to look at makers and actors was the music model, right? There was a time where you literally could only release your music if you were at a label. But the second MySpace came out and SoundCloud came out, I mean, look at the birth of Skrillex, came from putting an album on SoundCloud, right? And then now look at him, right? Justin Bieber was born off of YouTube. A lot of people actually forget that, you know? I know there's a couple girls like Christina Grimmie who like literally sang songs in her bedroom, and now she's touring with Selena Gomez. So it happened in music already, and it's just kind of a standard. I do think that it's totally shifting towards, you know, you were just at VidCon and it was crazy, right? Crazy. It was like the Beatles were in town.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all moving towards filmmakers and actors and content creators, I think. And it's going to happen now that it's snowballing. I think it's just going to happen a lot faster.